So I'm using the new timeline program on Mr. Nussbaum Extended. Let me show you exactly how this works. This is a really awesome program if you are teaching any sort of history course, United States history, world history, or anything like that. Or you're just trying to introduce kids to holidays or anything else that can be sequenced, really. So when you purchase the timeline program for $4 a year, you'll see on the left side there are pre-made timelines to deploy. And let me just show you how it works. So let's say, for example, I want to deploy to my students a timeline in which they have to arrange events chronologically in U.S. history. So I would click and drag U.S. history easy, and then I can actually preview this. So I click on it, and so I begin the game. And so I'd have to arrange these events in their correct chronological order with respect to their dates. So I know that Neil Armstrong becomes the first person to set foot on the moon in 1969. I know that the Paris Peace Treaty is signed. America becomes independent nation. That's 1783. I know that 9/11 happens in 2001. Alexander Graham Bell patents the telephone. I think that's 1876, but I might be wrong. Clara Barton founded the Red Cross, I think 1881. Challenger happened in 1986. The Vietnam War ended in 1973. And President Richard Nixon resigns after the Watergate scandal. So I click OK. Let's see what happens. All right, let's go to check answer. And so everything is correct. So I get 8 points there. And so there are 3 rounds like this. When you make your own games, you can make it just 1 round, you can make it 2 rounds, or you can make it 3 rounds. When you're done, it records all the scores and all information concerning what historical events were ordered correctly and which ones were not. Okay, so let's close this out because this was just in the preview mode. Now let's make our own. If I want to make my own, I can say create your own timelines. And watch how this works. It's pretty neat. Let's say I want to name this, I don't know, let's name it Explorers. And I also want to tag what grade level do I think this is appropriate for, because these can actually be used by other teachers in the system if they have the right tags. So let's say this is 4. Let's make it 4th grade. So let's say my first detail is Christopher Columbus lands, let's say Columbus reaches the New World. And I know this happens, I'm not going to put a month and day, I know it's October 13th, but let's just say 1492. Let's say the next event, you don't have to type them in the chronological order. Once you put the year in, the system does it for you. So let's say English settlers arrive at Roanoke Island. You have to do at least 8 though. And I know that happens in 1587. Now I also know that John White returns to Roanoke Island to find abandoned colony. And so I know that happens in 1590. Let's say, okay, so I know that the Jamestown colony is founded in 1607. I shouldn't put that here. That would give the answer away. So Jamestown colony is founded 1607. I also know that Samuel de Champlain establishes the Quebec colony for France, and that is 1608. And then I know various other things happen. Let's say one spot here. Let's say that Pennsylvania colony is founded, and that was 1682. I know that the Georgia colony is founded in 1732, and my 8th event, and my last one is French and Indian War begins, and this is 1755. And so I can keep going. I can make up to 24 events, but I'm only going to do one round. And this is just to show you. So maybe Explorers isn't a really great title for this. Let's make it Early America. All right, maybe it's probably more appropriate for grade level 5. So now I'm going to save this timeline. And I'm just waiting for it. Custom timeline saved. Okay. And now it's going to take me. I accidentally saved it a little bit too many times. I kept pressing. I kept clicking on it there because it wasn't working right away. You only need to do it once. I just have to be more patient. So anyway, so Early America. Now look, I can deploy this to my students. So I drag it over to be deployed. I can also delete this timeline here, or I can easily preview it. Click OK. Let's deploy it to one student, and let's show you what happens when I do that. I'm going to deploy it to this student, go down to Deploy Now, and now that timeline gain has been deployed to Gabriel. We're going to log out. We're going to log back in as him and see how this works. Okay. All right. Now I'm going to click on what says the Maptivation icon right now. When you get this, it'll have the timeline icon. So I click on it. He's been deployed several of these. He's going to go to Early America. And he's going to begin. And let's see how this works. So he has actually only 90 seconds. So Georgia colony is found. And let's get a couple of these wrong so that you can see what happens. I'll get most of them right. Pennsylvania goes there. That's wrong. So 1755, French and Indian War begins. English settlers arrive at Roanoke Island, 1587. All right, so I'm going to mix those two up. Let's click Check Answer. 6 of 8 are correct. Okay, so I keep going. The time keeps going. Now I can I need to assess. So I know that these two. No, that actually, Jamestown's founded in 1607. Pennsylvania is in 1682, and Samuel de Champlain is in 1608. So this should do it. So I check answer. Everything's correct. You see the statistics up here. I played one time. It took me a minute and a half. Scores 8. Average scores 8. Gives me all the information I need. If I click what did I get correct and incorrect, it shows me all the events that I sequenced correctly. And so that's it. It's a pretty useful program for those teachers teaching history. It's very cheap, $4 a year. You can make as many of these timelines as you want. You can deploy them to as many students as you want. You can use the ones I already made. We're going to introduce a functionality where teachers can exchange timelines, where you'll be able to choose from teacher-made timelines. That's coming in the future, along with a lot more programs. Anyway, so this is Timeline. Hope you enjoy it.